Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi al-faizina biridallah amma ba'd. Respected Chairman, Shaykhuna Tawqa Ustad, Shaykhuna MT Ustad, and the dignitaries on the stage and off the stage. Here, in this great occasion, we have gathered here to protest against the measures that are taken by the central government against the Sharia. Here I only want to point out some important aspects that we want to raise here in this protest program. Firstly, freedom of religion in India is a fundamental right that is guaranteed by Article 25 to 28 of Indian Constitution. India became an independent nation on 1947 and the Constitution came into existence on 26 January 1950. The preamble of Indian Constitution states that we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, democratic republic and to ensure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. In S.R. Bomme versus Union of India, the Supreme Court ruled that India was already a secular state from the time it adopted its constitution. Article 25 of the Indian Constitution says that all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion subject to public order, morality and health. The existing government is trying to interfere in these fundamental rights and they are taking measures which adversely affect on our belief and Sharia. The mass gathering here strongly demands the government to take necessary steps to protect the Sharia. India has a tradition, the tradition of brotherhood, the tradition of religious harmony, the tradition of mutual cooperation, and here we want to preserve all these traditional values. The secularism in India means respect for all religions and keeping a principled distance from each religion, unlike from what is there in what is understood in the Western European countries. Now, I want to come to the issue of triple talaq. Talaq is the legal way of divorcing a woman. There are some certain measures that are to be taken into consideration before the pronouncement of talaq. If a couple cannot live in harmony, then the best solution is letting them to find their own way. What Islam stands for is very natural, right, psychologically, sociologically and biologically. How we can compel a couple to live together when they are mentally separated. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court of India declared that the triple talaq as unconstitutional. I don't want to go further into the merits of the case as it has been described in detail in earlier speeches, and I expect that our respected Honorable Ustad will explain about the merit of that case and what are the demerits of that Supreme Court rule. The central government passed an ordinance according to which giving instant triple talaq has been made illegal and void and will attract a jail term of 3 years for the husband. It is to be noted that the bill, as mentioned earlier, Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Act is pending before the Rajya Sabha. We know when such power of issuing an ordinance is to be used, we know such a situation is not existing in India as of now. The provisions of the ordinance are also interesting to note. The bill is intended to protect the Muslim woman and their rights. At the same time, if the husband is going to the jail, whether the interest of Muslim women will be protected, we have to think about it. the main key features of the ordinance, which have been dealt in detail by Abdul Samad Bhukoto Sahib. According to the ordinance, any pronouncement of talaq by a Muslim husband to his wife in any manner, spoken or written, shall be void and illegal. After that, the bill says, the ordinance says, any Muslim husband who communicates the talaq orally or in writing may face the punishment up to 3 years in jail. The punishment also may be extended. The offence is cognizable by a police officer. A rigid procedure for granting bail is also there in the ordinance. All such provisions which have been dealt in detail in the earlier speech, so I don't want to go in detail. You have to just remember the government, the central government, which is issuing such an ordinance. Who is the Prime Minister of this nation? Even the Prime Minister who is standing for the rights of Muslim women, he is the person who has avoided his wife Yashoda Ben, and he is trying to bring justice. Before bringing justice to the Muslim woman, if you are concerned about the rights of the woman in India, and first you have to bring justice to even at least for your wife. The government is forcing Muslim husbands or Muslim community to commit adultery, which is forbidden in Islam. If you want to bring justice, you have to educate Muslim women, you have to empower Muslim women, you have to emancipate them, help them from your goons who are continuously hurting and committing violence throughout the nation. Now just to come to the issue of the mosque, whether the mosque is integral part of the Muslim belief, or whether the mosque is very integral part of the Muslim worship. The 24-year-old judgment by the Supreme Court in Ismail Faruqi versus Union of India had become the crucial clog in the Babri case. Responding to a plea for challenging the 1994 judgment, the Supreme Court refused to refer the matter to a 7-judge constitutional bench for review. In Dr. Ismail Faruqi versus Union of India, the Supreme Court considered the question of acquisition of a religious place by the state. A temple, church or a mosque, etc. are essentially immovable property and subject to protection under Article 25. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court adjudged that the offering namaz at mosque was not integral to Islam. But we want to raise our concern about this issue. The mosque is very, very integral part of the Islamic belief and the most important place of worship as far as the Muslims are concerned. The Muslim litigants in the Ayodhya dispute case filed for a review of the 1994 judgment after the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court a verdict ordering that the dispute site be disputed in 3 parts, one for deity and one for Nirmohi Akhara and another part for the Muslims. When the matter reached the Supreme Court, the Muslim litigants demanded that the case should be heard by a larger bench of 7 judges. The bench, chaired by the CJA, the then CJA Chief Justice of India, Deepak Mishra, refused to so. We know the controversial judgments made by Deepak Mishra, the CJA, the only Chief Justice of India who has faced the impeachment in the history, in the judicial history of India. Again, we are going to the issue of homosexuality. We know Section 371 of IPC, Indian Penal Code, was a section introduced in 1864 during the British rule in India. The section says, whoever voluntarily has carnal intercourse against the order of nature. We should remember the word that has been used in the act. The word was against the order of nature, which any man, woman or animal shall be punished with the imprisonment for life or with the imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. In January 2018, the Supreme Court agreed to hear a petition to revisit the 2013 Nas Foundation case. On 6th September 2018, the Supreme Court ruled unanimously in Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India that Section 377 was unconstitutional insofar it criminalized the consensual sexual conduct between adults in the same sex. Decriminalizing homosexuality will adversely affect the Indian culture and tradition. As the leaders have mentioned here, India has a tradition, a great tradition of thousands of years. It is against the order of nature. We are not raising this issue of homosexuality as an issue of a belief. It will adversely affect the social order and family setup. So I don't want to go further. So shortly, we have gathered here to raise our voice against the oppressive measures of the government against the Muslim community. We can't live apart from the Sharia. Sharia is not man-made. We have to remember, the Sharia is not man-made. It is the law given by Allah Almighty. It is eternal. So we shall fight democratically to preserve the Sharia. We want to remind the government, especially the central government, that you don't underestimate the collective efforts that are taken by Samasta. You can't underestimate the Samasta. The protest will go further. So no one can. And finally, what I want to say is that no one can. Now I am moving to the resolutions passed by the Samasta Shariat Conference here, gathering on 9th December 2018 at Mangalore, Karnataka. This galaxy of Islamic intellectuals belonging to Samasta Kerala Jamiatul Ulama, which is the most popular organization of Islamic scholars in the state, held their conference called Shariat Samrakshana Rally on 9th December 2018 at Nehru Maidan at Mangalore, Karnataka state, and passed the following resolution. The first, these mayas gathered here at Mangalore, Karnataka state under Samasta Kerala Jamiatul Ulama, the most popular organization of Muslim scholars in the state, are expressing their extreme protest against the Muslim Women Protection of Rights on Marriage Ordinance, which promulgated on 19th September 2018, and they afraid it will cause a large number of damage in family protection. Therefore, this resolution appeals the government to withdraw it immediately. Secondly, these mayas gathered under the Samasta Kerala Jamiatul Ulama hereby express their anxiety before His Excellency the President of India on the verdict of the Supreme Court on the necessity of the mosque for Muslims prior unnatural sexual relationship and adultery, and they are afraid it will destroy the moral, cultural and spiritual extents of the nation. And finally, the third resolution, these mayas gathered under the Samasta Kerala Jamiatul Ulama humbly request to the government to make a law which orders the court and the government that they should consult with the religious scholars on the matters related to their rituals and practices. Here I conclude. I don't want to prolong. Wa akhir dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.